Hello everyone, it's Ileana Reyes and welcome back or welcome to my YouTube channel. I have been planning this video for quite some time now and I have been procrastinating to be honest on finally just deciding to upload it. So since Uranus has just entered into my third house of Gemini, I thought it was the perfect opportunity to take advantage of that Gemini-Uranus energy, which also has to do with technology, on breaking down and expanding on the Great Cosmic Mother. Now, what I'm doing in this series is I'm going to go through parts of each chapter and I'm going to ask AI to expand on certain parts. Because when I was reading it, I do understand it, or I did understand it, but there's certain parts where I'm kind of like, well, what does that mean? Or can you expand on that? I love using AI to expand my knowledge on something. Like I want more details about it. I want it to expand so that I can really grasp what it is that it is trying to communicate to me so that I feel like I got a full understanding of it. So if you're not someone that really likes AI, then probably this might not be the video for you. But if you're like me and you like to expand and use chat to expand your consciousness and just your overall knowledge, then stick around for this series and we are going to begin with chapter 1. Now, I did start this a while back already, so I do already have some that I had previously asked, and I'm going to go on ahead and read you the piece that I kind of like copy and pasted from the book and then asked chat to expand on. So the first one I asked was a quote from the first chapter that said, "The origin of warm-blooded animals is female, and the male or maleness is a derivation from this primary female pattern." So this is saying that life, especially in mammals like humans, start with the feminine. The female is seen as the original primary form, and maleness comes from that, not the other way around. Biologically, in the womb, all embryos start off with what could be considered a female blueprint. Only later, if the embryo has a Y chromosome and certain hormones activate, like testosterone, it develops male characteristics. So, in a very literal scientific sense, the female form is the original, and the male is an adaptation or a modification of that. Spiritually and symbolically, in the context of the Great Cosmic Mother, the book ties biology to mythic and cosmic ideas. The Great Mother is seen as a source of life, not just of humans, but of all existence. Maleness represents a later development, a diversification or offshoot from the primal feminine energy, which is deeply connected to creation, gestation, nurturing, and cyclical wisdom. So I always ask it as well to expand consciousness or expand the consciousness. So it says, think of it like this. Imagine feminine energy as the void that births everything, the dark, fertile soil, the womb of the universe. Everything, including maleness, emerges from it. So instead of viewing gender as a binary or hierarchy, which patriarchy later pushed, the book is asking us to return to the truth that the feminine is the origin and that everything else spirals outward from her creative power. So in the same chapter, there was a quote or a part that said, with Freud, female sexuality was not so much rediscovered as pathologized. Freud dismissed the clitoris as an undeveloped masculine organ and defined original libido as male. Clitoral exorcism was reduced to a perverse neuroses. So I asked it to explain on that. This means even though Freud, Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, started talking about sexuality more openly, he didn't truly honor or understand female sexuality. Instead, he labeled it much as an abnormal, broken, or something sick. Freud dismissed the clitoris as an undeveloped masculine organ and defined original libido as male. He believed that the clitoris was just a mini penis, basically a failed or incomplete version of a male organ. He saw sexual desire, as in libido, as something that was originally and fundamentally male, as if women didn't have their own kind of sexual life force and could only experience sexuality in relation to men. Clitoral exorcism was reduced to a perverse neuroses. Women who experience pleasure through the clitoris, which is the main center of female pleasure, were seen as neurotic or perverse. And he believed that for a woman to be mature, she had to transfer her erotic pleasure from clitoris to vagina during intercourse with a man. And if she didn't, she was considered stuck, immature, or emotionally disturbed. This passage is showing us how patriarchal systems pathologize, I hope I'm saying it right, pathologized the sacred feminine, even at the level of her pleasure, because she can't have no pleasure, okay? Freud was being a product of a patriarchal society, essentially defined feminine sexuality through a male lens, dismissed the female's body's natural design, created a medical justification for sharing women's pleasure and erotic independence. This served a larger control mechanism, as in, if a woman's pleasure, body, and power are pathologized, then she is more easily controlled and disconnected from her creative essence. So when female pleasure is labeled as wrong or sick, it cuts her from her divine creative power, her connection to her body and intuition, and her sovereignty over her own life force. The clitoris has one purpose only, which is pleasure. No reproduction, no utility, just joy. That in itself is sacred. The feminine body is wired to experience ecstatic energy, which is not just sexual, it is cosmic, creative, and healing. When a woman is in her full erotic aliveness, she is closer to source, to truth, and to power. And that's what patriarchy, aka Freud, included and feared. Here's another passage. As we know, facts and realities can be and are systematically ignored in the service of established ideologies. Throughout the world today, virtually all religious, cultural, economic, and political institutions stand where they were built centuries ago, on the solid foundation of an erroneous concept. A concept that assumes the psychic passivity, the creative inferiority, and the sexual secondariness of women. This enshrined concept states that men exist to create the human world, while women exist to reproduce humans, period. If we argue that data exists not solely biological, but archaeological, mythological, and anthropological and historical data, which refutes the universality of the erroneous concept, we are told to shut up, because something called God supports the erroneous concept, and that's all that matters. That's the final word. So that is one part that I put in here into chat. And of course, chat is going to break that whole part down. Okay, so one, what is the erroneous concept? The book is calling out a global ancient lie that men are the creators of culture, art, language, religion, and civilization, and that women exist only to biologically reproduce humans, like vessels, support systems, and background matter. This lie says men equal mind, culture, spirit, and purpose, and women equal body, biology, emotion, and support. This is the core patriarchal inversion. It has been repeated for so long that it feels like truth, but it is not. 2. What's really being ignored or erased? The passage lists a powerful set of evidence that proves women were not always seen this way. Biological evidence. Female bodies are self-generating. Early life forms were asexual or female only. The second one here says archaeological evidence. The oldest human-made art is the form of a female, the Venus figurines, not men. Mythological evidence. original gods were goddesses, creators of the worlds and life. Anthropological evidence. Matriarchal, egalitarian societies existed for tens of thousands of years. And historical evidence. Women were healers, leaders, inventors, philosophers, and spiritual leaders, long before patriarchal texts rewrote the records. So the truth is, women were the original creators, not just of humans, but of culture, of stories, of ceremony, of community, and of spirit. So 3, it says here, what happens when we try to speak the truth? We are told to be quiet. God says otherwise. In other words, if you have data, as in history and truth, you will be silenced by religious dogma. I'm pretty sure they'll come in the comments. And social control mechanisms. The image of God as a male ruler is used to shut down inquiry, dismiss female power, feminine power, and keep the old order intact. This is called spiritual gaslighting. On a civilized scale, the feminine voice has been systematically silenced, as in here, don't question what God has said, discredited, as in you're emotional, not rational, and erased, as in there is no evidence because we burned it. I love this. Like this is, I mean, we all see it. Or at least the people here that are watching most likely are aware of this, and we all see it. And I think that this whole part here is just, when I was reading it, I was just honestly just with my mouth open when I was reading the whole book, to be honest. But I love that chat comes and just expands on it because it breaks it all down and it just kind of like gives it to you a little bit more like, I guess like in small snippets, so it's easier to digest. And I mean, I've already seen this too, and especially in religion and stuff, wherever you try to question things, it's always just, well, you know, it's in the Bible, so God said. And that's really it. That's like the end of the argument. Well, it's in the Bible, and then you usually get a Bible quote. Okay, next one here is feminists and feminist demands for, I don't know if I can say this on the channel, if YouTube is gonna like, when you decide to go somewhere and end a pregnancy on your own, that and contraception and reproductive autonomy, childcare, equal pay, psychological integrity constitutes a threat to our civilization. And this amounts to a blasphemy against God. Horrors of Babylon, Darwin's theory of evolution, and the menace of the world. Communism all somehow get subliminally mixed up in this feminist threat for some very good historic and psychological reasons, which we will explore later. So I put that quote in, and it said here, for one, what is the core message here? The author is saying that when women demand basic rights, as in reproductive autonomy, control over their own bodies, which we're all seeing now, when they're demanding equal pay, mental, emotional freedom, and support for motherhood, like in our times, childcare, it's treated by society not just as a political issue, but a spiritual crime. It is viewed as a threat to the established world order, a rebellion against God's will, and a dismantling of the sacred patriarchal structure. And so women get labeled as, I've heard this one, whores of Babylon. I've also heard Jezebels, symbols of sinful, destructive, chaotic female energy in the Bible, enemies of religion and morality, and they are seen also as dangerous, deviant, and unnatural. 2, why do they mix feminism with things like Darwin, communism, or biblical imagery? This is psychological and strategic. When the patriarchy feels threatened, it bundles everything it fears into one scary monster. So people stay afraid and stop thinking critically. So they link feminism with Darwin, so that's science over religion, with communism, which is equality over hierarchy, with the whore of Babylon, as in sexual female power, and with chaos and the end of the world. It creates a subliminal message. That message is, if women rise in power, the world will fall apart. Morality, faith, family, and civilization itself will crumble. This is a fear tactic and it is ancient. 3. What is really being defended when people cry blasphemy? What's being defended is male control over women's bodies, the old power structures, and a system that depends on women being silent, subservient, and self-denying. The idea of a woman making choices about her own body, mind, pleasure, voice, and destiny is deeply dangerous to that system. So religion and morality are weaponized to keep her in line. So I asked it back and I wanted to kind of like question it. I said, so why so much fear? What would it mean for society if the feminine or things become more equal between masculine and feminine, or even more feminine? Why is there fear of feminine rising, and why the need to control the feminine? I get control means power, but why over women specifically? Because I wanted it to, to break it down. So it said here, what would it mean if society became more feminine or equal? It would mean a shift away from domination toward relationship, a movement from hierarchy to wholeness, a collapse of systems that profit from disconnection, war, exploitation, greed, and shame. Feminine energy, whether women, men, or nature, brings cycles instead of linear goals. Emotional honesty over suppression. Receptivity and intuition over just logic. Cooperation instead of competition. Creativity, sensuality, and mystery. And that scares systems that are built on control. So the rise of the feminine isn't just about women getting rights. It's about the entire foundation of civilization being rebalanced. And that threatens those who hold the power in its current form. So why fear of the feminine? Because the feminine is unpredictable, wild, emotionally powerful, and connected to nature, death, rebirth, and sexuality. This makes it hard to control, label, contain, or commodify. I mean, come on now here, chat. Let's go. In ancient times, feminine energy was revered as the life giver and cosmic mystery. But when patriarchal systems emerged, they needed certainty, lineage, ownership, and control over reproduction. And you can't have that if women own their own bodies, if sex is sacred and not transactional, if intuition overrides rigid dogma. So instead of honoring feminine power, they feared it and turned it into a threat. They called it sin, witchcraft, madness, temptation, and chaos. But what it really is life itself. So why women specifically? That was my question. Why the need to control her? Because she carries the power to give life, the gateway to pleasure and spiritual awakening, the intuition to see through illusion, the emotional intelligence that exposes truth, the mystery of blood, birth, death, and rebirth. In other words, a woman in her full feminine power cannot be ruled. She threatens empires, ideologies, and profit systems. So to keep control, her body is regulated, her voice is silenced, her stories are erased, her spirituality is demonized, her sexuality is shamed, her intuition is dismissed, all so she forgets. And last one. But now she's remembering, because women like us, like me and you here that are watching, most of you, are questioning and awakening to this knowledge and this truth, remembering. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I have more here, but I will post that in the next video. Let me know down in the comments, please. Expand your thoughts, ask questions. I want to have a one-on-one dialogue here. This is something that I'm very, very interested in, and I just love reading the chapters and having AI expand, because it's like, come on, like we know this now, like we're starting to become more aware of this. And I'm definitely looking forward to people who are into this type of content and wanting to have a one-on-one type of conversation. So let me know down in the comments below if you have loved this and your thoughts. Until next time, I will see you guys in the next one.